Dear students, welcome again to the course of Organizational Theory and Behavior. I'm your course instructor, Shehzad Khan Durrani, lecturer, Institute of Business Studies, Cohort University of Science and Technology, Hangu campus. Today, our topic is Power and Politics. Our outline, it includes power. We will try to define power. Then we will talk about contrasting leadership and power. We will try to differentiate between them. Then we will talk about the basis of power, and it includes formal basis of power and personal basis of power. Then we will talk about the effective basis of power, which bases of power are more effective for the organizations, and then we will talk about the power tactics. So let's start by the definition of power. Dear students, I already defined power and I already differentiate power and leadership in my previous lecture, but we will try to define power again and understand the basic concept of power. So power by definition refers to a capacity that A has to influence the behavior of B. So B acts in accordance with A's wishes, right? So what does it mean, right? So it means that power refers to the capacity one person has over the other person to get them to do what they want, right? Inherent in this definition is the idea of what? Is the idea of dependency, right? So what is dependency? Dependency is B's relationship to A when A possesses something that B requires, right? So it means that the stronger the relationship or the dependency that one person has when other possess something they want or requires, the greater the dependency on that person, right? And power also includes potential, right? So it is actually the potential or the capacity to influence. So power does not need to be actualized to be effective. The next topic is contrasting leadership and power. We will try to differentiate between them. So let's see, right? Look at this table, dear students. Here you can see the first one, goal compatibility, right? So leadership and power, right? When it comes to goal compatibility, leadership requires goal congruence, right? There is similarity of goals between the leader and the follower. Their goals are similar. When it comes to power, only needs dependence, right? So like for example, the B, for example, if the B is dependent on A, it means that B lacks something that A possess that thing, right? Then the second difference is the direction of influence, right? So leadership actually focuses on downward influence. The influence is actually downward on their followers, on their teams, on the subordinates, right? While the power actually concerned with influence in all directions, right? It just concerned with the dependency and the potential that one person has and the other person lacks, right? The third difference is actually the research emphasis, right? So the leadership, it emphasizes the leadership style, right? Which style you are following, the situational leadership, the team leadership, right? Or for example, like the traits you have or the characteristics that you have, while the power focuses on tactics used by the individuals and the groups, right? So that's the difference between leadership and power, contrasting leadership and power. Now we will move towards our next slide. So basis of power, right? Some of the bases of power that we have are, that is presented by French and Rauer in 1959, and they are the referent power, right? Expert power, legitimate power, then we have the reward power, and then we have the coercive power. So let's explain the formal basis of power. These 5 bases of power are further divided into 2 categories. One is called formal basis of power and one is called personal basis of power. So let's explain the formal basis of power. So formal power is defined more by the position a person will hold in the organization, right? So the position that you have in the organization, that's why it's called the formal basis of power. And it includes the coercive power. So coercive power complies from fear of the negative results, right? There is punishment or there is penalty on something, so you are doing something right just because of the coercive power. Reward power is actually complies due to the desire for positive benefits, right? There is a reward and you are looking for that reward, you are trying to get that reward, so you are doing something good or positive just because for the reward, right? So that's called the reward power. Legitimate power is actually from the formal authority to control and use organizational resources, right? So here the person has the authority, he has the legitimate power, right? The other kind of power that we have is called the personal basis of power, the other category that we have. And it actually stems from an individual's unique characteristics. That's why it's called personal basis of power. So it includes the expert power, right? So expert power influence wielded as a result of expertise, special skills or knowledge, the skills, the expertise or the knowledge you have. The other power is called the referent power, and based on identification with the person, right, who has desirable resources or personal traits like charisma somebody has. So you are referring yourself to that person, so that's called the referent power. The next one, we have the effective basis of power, right? So expert and referent power are positively related to performance and commitment, right? So they are actually positive, referred according to the studies to performance and commitment. Reward and legitimate power are unrelated to organizational commitment, right? Because here, like, the personal is not using excuse me, the person is not using his personal will here, right? So that's why it's unrelated to organizational outcomes. Coercive power is negative related to employees satisfaction and commitment, right? So coercive power is actually negatively related to, because it's something that includes penalty or punishment, right? Now our next topic is the power tactics. We will talk about it, right? Used to translate power bases into specific actions that influence others, and it includes more immediate than power bases, right? Can result in the accumulation of a power base, right? So these actually the power tactics can result in the accumulation of a power base. The next one, we have the 9 influence tactics, and they are legitimacy. Legitimacy means relying on one's positional authority or stressing the request is in accordance with organizational policies and rules, right? The next one, we have the rational persuasion, and it includes presenting logical arguments and factual evidence to demonstrate the request is reasonable. So here you are trying to come up with some logical arguments and factual evidence, so that you are trying to demonstrate that my request is reasonable, right? So these are the tactics. Legitimacy, you are using it. Rational persuasion. The next one, we have the inspirational appeals, right? Developing emotional commitment by appealing to a target's value, needs, hope, and aspiration, right? So you are trying to develop some emotional commitment, right? By appealing that target values. The next one is the consultation, right? It's also one of the tactics, increasing the target's motivation and support by involving him or her in deciding how the plan or change will be done. So you are trying to consult with that person. Then we have the exchange, right? Rewarding the target with benefits or favors in exchange for following a request, right? So for example, exchanging the target with benefits, you are, or maybe some favors, right? Then the personal appeal, right? So asking for compliance based on friendship or loyalty, right? So it's something that is includes personal appeal. Then we have the ingratiation, right? The ingratiation is using flattery, praise, or friendly behavior prior to making the request, right? So you are trying to be frank with that person, right? One of the tactics. Pressure, right? Using warnings, repeated demands, and threats. Here you are using it, so it's also one of the tactics. Another one is the coalitions, right? So you are trying to work together with the target, enlisting the aid of the other people to persuade the target, or using the support of other as a reason for the target to agree, right? Here, like in the power tactics, some of them are soft and some of them are really harsh, or you can call them hard tactics. These are the references that I use while making my slides. Thank you.